Hey, I'm Amy Chang, and I'm a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. And this is Healthy AF. Here, we're going to bring to you all things health. You'll hear stories of people who have transformed their health and in the meantime, transformed their lives. We'll answer those burning questions about the newest health strategies, and we'll tackle some common roadblocks that my clients bring to me all the time. Lastly, we're going to talk to some practitioners who will bring to you different modalities that they're passionate about and how you could benefit from using those. So buckle in. We're going to be inspired, instructed, and have a little fun with Healthy AF. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Healthy AF. I am so excited to have Dr. Mackenzie Jones here with Breakthrough Functional Medicine. Functional medicine is such a good developing, it's probably older than we think it is, place in our healthcare system. And I'm a firm believer in it. And I'm really excited to have Mackenzie here to talk a little bit about who she is, why she started doing this, how awesome nurse practitioners are. Holla, holla. So let's just start by telling you a little bit about Dr. Mackenzie Jones.
Yeah. Hey.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Good. Yeah. No, I'm really super excited for me having another nurse practitioner and opening up some of the information that people might not have and some options they have for especially chronic illnesses outside of just conventional therapies is thebomb.com. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read a little bit about your background because I want people to know who you are.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. So Mackenzie is a doctorate of nursing practice. That is a DNP. She's also a family nurse practitioner that is board certified. She graduated from UNC Wilmington with her BS in nursing and went on to East Carolina University to obtain her doctorate of nursing practice and her family nurse practitioner license. She's board certified as a family nurse practitioner, and she's currently continuing her education in functional medicine at the School of Applied Functional Medicine. She's been treating patients in the functional medicine scene since about 2019, and she's recently opened up her own practice. Welcome, Mackenzie.
Good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
I know. I'm excited too. I actually, your name sort of came to me through different people, and you were on my list of like, I need to sit down. Like, I need to be across from her. And when we met a few months ago, I was like, I need her on the podcast because other people need to hear her story.
It's a crazy one for sure.
It is. Well, let's just start there. Tell us your story.
Yeah. So I mean, all the way back at the beginning, always had ear infections, antibiotics, always sick, didn't know what to do with me. By the time I was 5, I had asthma and allergies. And I think I was 16 by the time I was on 7 prescriptions. So IBS, acne, you name it. So really, I think traditional medicine was just like, we're giving you a diagnosis. Here's a prescription to help. And they did help, right? But it was a Band-Aid and wasn't getting to the root, if you will, which is what functional medicine's all about, right? So fast forward to I go to college at UNCW. Always knew I wanted to be a nurse.
Oh, really? You were one of those?
So I did like a career, quiz or whatever in middle school, and it said you should be a teacher or you should be a nurse. And I was like, well, I can deal with guts and gross things, so I should be a nurse. And my mom was a nurse, my grandma was a nurse, so we always joke it's in our genes. So so kind of knew I wanted to do that. So went to UNCW and started doing all my prerequisites for nursing. And my first semester, it was actually Halloween. I remember it like pretty vividly. I was with my now husband and I was like, hey, like something's not right. I need to go to the hospital. Like I was throwing up blood, like wasn't pretty.
Oh my gosh.
So those interesting.
There's some big warning signs.
Yes. So went to the ER on Halloween. So that was entertaining, but
that was a shit show, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So then they diagnosed me with ulcerative colitis, put me on, at the time, I don't know if you remember this, they were given Demerol. So I was like, so
you were loop-de-loop, weren't you?
Yes. And don't even give that anymore. Yes, it was on that Cipro, Flagyl. I
Mhm.
mean, the whole nine. So they discharged me, I think, the next morning. They're like, take all this stuff. So I remember being on my top bunk, in my dorm room freshman year. And I call my mom and I'm like, hey, I'm so sick. I can't even get down. Like, just couldn't keep anything down, not doing well. So she said, well, I'm going to come get you. So she comes to get me and she's like, we've tried everything. We've tried this traditional route. It's not working. I don't know what else to do for you, but I just heard about this hippie doctor, right? Or functional.
I
Fun-
love it.
and this
Yes.
is what year is this? 2009. So that
Uh-huh.
was, a while ago when it wasn't like a thing. So
No, it
yeah, so
wasn't a
she said,
thing.
we'll get you an appointment because he helped one of my friend's daughters. So we were like, okay. So anyways, fast forward to going to see him. He was a MD and he did like a really, good physical exam, had all these random things where he'd be like, oh, I actually feel your thyroid's enlarged and you have these white spots on your nails. You have zinc deficiency and, all this just little tidbits no one had noticed. So he pretty much told me I was eating foods I was reacting to, like gluten, dairy, I think eggs. So cut all those out, started some supplements, maybe like 5 to 10, I can't remember. And
Mm.
anyways, within 2 weeks, I was like, wow, I mean, I'm like 50% better.
Hmm.
So when that happened, then of course I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do with my life.
Yeah.
It helped me so much.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And I'm curious too. So in 2 weeks, you were 50% better. How did that progress? What did that look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, you probably know this too. I feel like it's like a journey of ups and downs. So, I'd kind of backslide and then would have to, do a different treatment or a different modality. But I mean, I would say to getting to the place where I want to be, like I would say now I'm like, I don't know, 98%, 99. I mean, if that, maybe 100, I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, it took me, so I guess, let's say 10 years. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's a process, right? Like I was
It
having
always
to,
is.
yeah, check my
And
gut. Yeah.
yes,
All the
that's the thing that I see the most in people, is that if I can communicate with them so that they come to that aha moment of the 1% changes on the daily,
yes.
like
Yes.
that's the ticket, that's the little James Clear atomic habits, that's I'm making healthier choices at 50 than I did at 25.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's always, ups and downs. So don't get discouraged. But overall, like you said, you should be on that like upward
Yeah,
trajectory.
trajectory. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 2009. You get better. You're a freshman at UNCW.
Yep.
You graduate from there. Did you go straight into your DMP program?
So they recommend you working a few years, which
Oh,
I'm
I'm
glad
so
I did.
glad.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Yes.
Yeah, I did. So I worked at Duke in the medical ICU from, I guess it was 14 at that point by the time I graduated, and was there for like 2 years. And so that was really cool. I mean, you're doing like the, craziest things like ECMO and
Yeah.
dialysis and yeah, all these wild things. So
What's your
it was,
favorite kind of patient in the MICU?
oh, well, I don't know. I'd liked the continuous dialysis. That was cool.
Uh-huh.
And then they were hard, but the lung transplants, we had a lot of those.
Mm,
It was tough though. Yeah, I
yeah.
know that's a hard question,
What's
but yeah,
tough about the lung transplant?
they just go through a lot, man. I
Yeah.
mean, that's yeah, the ECMO and all the
Yeah.
meds they have to take. But yeah, I would see them, a few get better, which was good because they had like, they of course had to do the transplant if they were doing it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
I never did MICU. I did surgical ICU and I did coronary care,
that's
like
cool.
not cardiothoracic ICU, but just the coronary care. And I did cath lab too. They were my intensive spots. But the other day I was actually sitting in the ED, with that
Oh yeah.
concussion, and I always think about the hospital, because I do love that environment. And they strolled me by, and I was sitting in the hallway on my little stretcher waiting for a CT to come, get me. And there's a patient, and he could not have been, he was sick. He was
Yeah.
sick, sick, tubes
Yeah,
everywhere
I
and
see
stuff.
it.
And
Yeah.
all of a sudden I was like, oh, do I really still miss it?
I know. Really, part of you feel a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah,
Not the
it's
2 hour shifts and the no lunch breaks and the no bathroom breaks. Yeah.
yeah, the
Don't miss
time
that
that the time you pee before you go home and realize you hadn't
part.
dropped your
Exactly.
drawers in
Yeah,
12.
it's not good. Yeah.
It's not. And to be honest, like, I don't know if you feel this way. I think it's interesting that we're both in fields now where we're not looking at survival anymore. We were in fields where like, we need you to survive.
Right.
That's our goal. And then we'll deal with, whatever we need to deal with later.
Yeah.
And now we're both kind of in fields where like, no, we're looking to thrive, baby.
Well, and don't you think, I mean, part of me, I saw how people got so sick, and I was thinking in the back of my head, like, how did they get to this place? Like, I want to catch them before they get here because, a lot of times in NICU, it was like, you're not going to make it. And it's sad. It was sad to see. And so I was like, how can I help people even way, way before this, not get here, not be, overweight and have all these chronic conditions. Right. I mean, I think that made me who I am today.
Every time. And, I was just sitting in a sepsis webinar for 6 hours. And two things really sat in my mind. A, the last time I worked in an ICU was, my oldest child, it was about 20 years ago. 20 years that I've been out of the ICU. And we still don't know any more about sepsis, really.
Yeah.
You still don't be getting in septic shock because you're not going to be coming out.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, one of the first things that physician said in the very beginning of that webinar is, to prevent sepsis, you got to do your foundations: nutrition, exercise, and sleep.
Like, and that's what we preach
all day long and twice on a Sunday.
That's right. Yeah. So it's so important, obviously.
Yeah. Okay. So you get to ECU, you're doing your DNP. At this point, firmly that what you want to do is more root cause, less ICU.
Right.
And what did it look like when you graduated and came out? How did that, tell me that story.
So I always, kind of joke, I have two parts of my brain. Like, I have that traditional part. And then I have like, if someone comes to you and you're like, oh, wow, like, you're acutely ill, I need you to go see someone, right? Like, that's not what I do anymore. I can just tell you're sick and you need to go see someone, right?
Yes.
But so then in the back of my head, I have, that foundational part and functional medicine. And so, it was tricky, I think, like being in school and, having both parts of my brain, but I think we need both too. But I guess from a, functional medicine part, the whole school, I guess I did 7 years of schooling. I didn't take one nutrition class, and that really made me so sad.
Very common from all the education I've ever had. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, something's got to change. This is terrible. So I mean, I didn't even know like a fat from a carb from a protein, just in my own experience and my own, studies. So so
tube feeding.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only time we ever looked at it was how to calculate all that up for tube feeding.
Right. So that, that was kind of like an aha moment of like, we need to go back to the basics and the foundations, kind of like you said. So so when I graduated in 2019, I knew I wanted to do functional medicine, and I'd had that traditional training. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll jump in and see how it goes. So I did start at a cash practice doing functional medicine. So it was really good for me. The practitioner I followed, she was really good at like history and timeline. Okay, well, this happened. What were you doing then? And a lot of times it was a stress, a trauma, or like Hurricane Florence came through in 2018. Oh, well, you have mold in your house because your roof leaked, and, just kind of crazy things like that. So it was an interesting, or I got a tick bite, and that's when the wheels fell off. So I have Lyme disease, or maybe, that kind of thing. So it was good for me in that aspect. I really learned a lot, and it was a good functional medicine foundation. And then COVID happened, 2020. So then we parted ways. So then I meet Dr. Matthew, who's at Trinity Wellness, and he was really into, functional medicine, but he said, hey, you're going to have to switch over to insurance because that's how the practice is set up. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting because I just done, cash.
Right. And functional medicine is largely cash practice.
I think they say 97%. Can you believe that? Yeah.
And let's just, for anyone not in healthcare, let's, clear that up just a little bit, because functional medicine doesn't typically go in and treat a problem, which is the way we bill our insurance carriers. You got to have a problem.
Diagnosis,
so we really do not have a healthcare system that is built upon thriving and health and real prevention. It's built on, you've got a disease and we're going to treat you now.
Exactly. We were able to diagnose you. It was that bad. Yeah.
Yep. We had to wait until you were sick so that we could start treating you and billing and getting paid for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're in a practice that you're practicing functional medicine, but you're actually having to use the diagnostic code so you can bill insurance.
Right.
How'd that
And
go?
yeah, it was interesting because it was a psychiatry practice too. So I was kind of the only one doing functional medicine, but then I had some, most of them were psychiatric patients like, hey, I think I want to explore this. And, so of course, so interesting with the trauma dynamic, the gut dynamic, just things, people hadn't explored before. So, I think I had a further appreciation of, sometimes people your anxiety's so bad, your depression's so bad, you need a medication to stabilize you while you work on everything else. Like doing this type of foundation functional medicine, it takes a while. And I can't promise you your anxiety is going to be gone like that in a month. It could be, but probably not. Right. So I guess
love the way you blend
yeah.
that. And I think that's
so
really
good.
appropriate in our healthcare system. If you have someone who has horrible coronary artery disease and they're having a heart attack, you don't just say like, hey, I hope you make it. Go do some exercising, stop smoking, and change your diet, right? We're going to take you to the cath lab. We're going to get you fit, and we're going to give you, those recommendations for lifestyle change. So
so it was good for me to remember, because I think sometimes we can get so into the holistic mindset. But then you're like, well, hey, like this person has bipolar, like they need to be stabilized. But then, let's maybe look at your neurotransmitters. Let's maybe look at, why is there gut or bacteria overgrowth in your gut? And that can make your brain really mad, like all those kinds of like trying to piece it together. So I was very grateful for that opportunity too, because I just got to learn. But, then I did get to the point where, I was, I think I had like a 6-month waiting list or something crazy.
Mackerel.
Yeah. And just because everyone was like, oh, like this girl takes insurance and she's helping a lot of people. Because I was able to get some people off their medications or at least less. And so that was really cool to see. So so I kind of feel like I came to a fork in the road. Like, okay, I can't have a family and like the lifestyle that I want with the model that we're in, because with, I did some just psychiatry patients of like, oh, hey, you have ADHD, here's your medications. And, I was like, wow, this is why our model set up like this. Cause I was like, okay, do you need anything? Oh no, just my medications. I'd be like, do you want to talk about anything like diet, exercise? So you're like, no, like I just want my meds. And then you would, bill them. I billed you the same time as I spent with someone for functional medicine who was like a 30, 45-minute appointment. Yeah. So it was just crazy to see like, oh, okay, that's the person this model is good for, So and so I was charting all day, just super, getting burnt out. And I was like, this isn't how it should be. So then, total godsend for sure. I found this model of, okay, here's how I'm going to set up my practice. And when I found it, I was like, this makes perfect sense to me. The first appointment, the foundations, right? So kind of a little health coaching in there. Like, let's talk diet, exercise, stress, sleep, all those things first. And then it's fun because I get to go over labs too. So really saying like, hey, what's optimal, so just the whole model made sense for me. And then after that, if you want to continue to work together, it's a commitment. It's 12 months, like you're signing on and we're kind of like hitting the ground running. So it's been great. It's been amazing.
I love that. And so what I'm curious about is the types of clients you get who present with the types of disease processes you get. Because I have an idea that you have clumps.
Yes.
You have clumps of people that are coming to you with specific health issues. One thing I hear in my practice is, and largely it's stress related, but it's, I know my gut is bad. I know my gut is bad. Yes. I hear I'm having diarrhea all the time, or I hear, my anxiety is up. I hear that a lot. I feel overwhelmed to like the point of sort of paralysis, kind of.
Right.
I hear I want to come off my antidepressants. I hear I'm not as interested in the bedroom as I was. And that is distressing, clearly that's a big part of your life,
Right.
I hear a lot of things. And I also, because I do have Hashimoto's and have had it for, a quarter century, I hear that a lot too. That my thyroid's not working. So I hear a lot of sprinklings that say to me, like, Functional medicine, functional medicine, functional
Yeah.
medicine.
Yeah.
So what do you see?
Oh, I feel like it's, yeah, like you said, so many different things. So I think, like you said, with stress, that's the thing I see the most. And, it's so, I think, countercultural to be like healthy and not be stressed out. It's almost like we wear it as a badge of honor, like, oh, how are you? Oh, busy, or
Yep.
always doing something. And it's, it's like, when did we get to this place? Like, when does culture been like that? I mean, I'm guessing maybe after the 1950s, I don't know. But yeah, so just, our bodies can do a lot. They're really resilient. But if we're in that chronic low grade fight or flight, like stress, we're just not going to get better. So, because our body's not going to heal if we're being chased by or thinks we're being chased by a bear is what I always say. Our body's like, okay, like we're going. And like,
you're
hey,
not going to stop and drop a poop. If your body is like, go.
Yep. Or want to have sex, right? Like you said.
Oh, geez, no. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not going to prioritize that.
No. And you know what I see coming in too, now that we're just talking about that, is that's where the cocktails come in.
Right. Like trying to get you. Yeah.
Yeah. They're just,
that
people just are trying to, because it is that. I remember the first time I ever read like in a Brene Brown book, about the culture of I'm busy. And I was a younger mom at the time. And there is a huge cultural thing. If you're a mom and you're not like worn out and running people here, there, and everywhere, and, like earning your keep and wearing your mom medal of honor on, there's some shame and stuff.
Yeah. And running them to all the activities and the extracurriculars. And I know. So it's, I try and, I know you do this too, but like meet people where they're at and like, hey, I'm not saying you're not going to have stress, but let's just maybe find like an hour in the day where we can just have you time, or like, I always call it vitamin J, right? Vitamin joy. Like what can we?
I love that.
Makes you happy. A lot of times we're so, I think like you said, as moms, we're focused on like, okay, I have to take care of them. And of course that's, normal and that's okay. But like, can we just take a little time for us so that way we can be grounded and be the best version of us that we can be?
I love it that you bring up joy. I just did a podcast with my kid on angst or joy. And
cool.
It was actually super fun. I'm so proud of her. I can't even stand myself. But, I think if you equate it to our healthcare models too, it's we deal with angst or illness. And as long as we can get you to a spot that you're surviving and leaving the ICU, and as long as we can get you to a spot where like your nose holes are above the water.
Still breathing.
Yeah. Like you're good. And that's actually not joy.
Right.
That's not joy. That is, I'm still trudging through, but it is not joy.
Right.
That you say vitamin J, because we are not talking about like, hey, to deal with your chronic stress, you need to just get to a survival spot. Yeah. No, we're saying if you want to have some great poops and some great sex, you need to find some joy.
You're like, work on that first. Yeah. So it's the things like that. You're like, oh, wow. Like you take a step back and you haven't even taken the time because you're so busy to think about it.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah,
so what would be the nugget? What's the first thing that you either suggest to your people, or some of the best interventions that come out of my practice are the interventions that my client has, thought up. I mean, I don't make this stuff up. Like, the answers. So I'm just the question asker. What's some of the interesting things or something that you would want the listeners to know if you're feeling that stress and that chronic, I'm running, what's maybe an easy peasy tip that they can do?
I always try and focus on morning routines and nighttime routines. So just having that like time of the day. So I know for like a lot of moms, if your kids are sleeping till 6, can you just get up at like 5:30 and have that little bit of time? So, maybe going outside on your porch and, gratitude journaling or taking some deep breaths, praying, meditating, stretching, those kinds of things. Right. And that's so nice. Or like putting your feet in the ground and grounding, like, being a hippie in that way, but it's so, so good for you. So yeah, I really like that. And I think we've talked about this, but seeing that morning sunshine come up, right? That morning sunlight actually makes us release melatonin that night. So it's really helping us with our circadian rhythm and our cortisol and our melatonin. So, just something simple like, hey, just try to go outside for however many minutes you can and just get that morning sunlight.
I love that. That is such a great suggestion. And it brings up to me, when mine were little, they were always early risers. And the difference in how I started my day. When I started my day to my alarm waking me up, then when I started my day to mom.
Then you're like, oh.
And I would set my alarm literally just for like 15 minutes earlier. And I might even still be in bed, but be awake.
Just have
and
you
it
time.
Just totally shifted. Just let me be conscious before I have to field a request.
Go.
Yeah. Thank you. I had not thought about that in a long time.
Same with the nighttime routine too, where I think a lot of us have that dysregulated cortisol, where, a lot of us are inside all day. And then at nighttime, those bright lights are coming on, right? And making our brains confused. So then it's almost like our cortisol flips and we're like, oh, we're awake. We're ready to do stuff now. We're not tired anymore, and that melatonin can't take over because we need cortisol to be lower before that melatonin can take over. So trying to have a good, really like calming nighttime routine. So can we do some tea? So can we do a supplement called glycine that's very like relaxing? It's almost like a glass of wine because it's an amino acid that's very relaxing. And it tastes kind of like sweet. So, just trying to find those little things.
Do you just get that at a random health food store? Or is it capsule? What is that?
They have a powder. The powder is usually what I use. Any health food store like in town, like Lovey's, Tidal Creek, or wherever everyone is. And then, just maybe like, again, vitamin J, like, do you like to read books? Do you like to take baths? Like, what does that look like? And then just getting ourselves that morning and nighttime, time to just be like, oh, okay, we did today. We did good.
I love that. And I would say not even an hour. Like if you need to start with a 5-minute, I just need to be awake and praying before. Just let me contact my higher power before you call me mama.
Please help me.
Yes. Are you there, God? It's me, Mom.
Yes. Gotta do it all over again.
That's right. Okay, so stress is a big thing that you deal with in your client base. What else?
I think, and like we kind of talked about sleep already, a lot of people, I just do basic things like, hey, let's put some blue light blockers on and block that light coming from your phone or your TV, or let's put your phone away. Let's say 8:00 and a little alarm goes off and you put it away so you're not on social media and the news stressing yourself out.
I know, right?
And then we're in that fight or flight and we're not going to sleep well. So I have a lot of people, they start waking up at like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And that's usually your cortisol. So we have a cortisol awakening response. And that's our body just saying, hey, we're again watching out for that bear that's coming. We're not in parasympathetic. So just really working on, the nighttime routine, maybe some sleep supplements, blue light blockers, just basic things, or play an app, right? To like, okay, I'm going to breathe. I think that's one thing I forget all the time. And I think people do too, is like our cells run on oxygen. And how often are we like shallow breathing or like not like taking a full inhale? I mean, it's like just not our normal day to day, like, oh, let me just take some deep breaths. Like, people don't do that. And it's so basic, but it really works.
It does. I have a handful of clients who come into session, I don't like this. Okay.
Help me.
Like, I made it. I'm here. They need me in 60 minutes. 3, 2, 1, go, coach.
Take a breath.
And I always just say like, okay, I have some box breathing exercises. Would you like to do some?
Yes.
And it's interesting. I have that, and I have a poem that I absolutely love called "She Let Go." And
cool.
I can't remember who reads it, but there's some English dude who reads the version of it that I love. And it takes 3 minutes to listen to it. And his little voice is just like right. And every time that we come into session, all harried, and we go like, okay, let's breathe, or let's just listen and be still. Then who we are literally on the other side of that 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Um,
And they
but
probably can't like learn and hear you when they're in that fight or flight. So it's like you have to
mhm.
help them get into that place. Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm asking them questions about like, well, how did your exercise routine today really align with your deepest value?
Mm.
And you're in like, that doesn't,
That's, yeah.
no, it's not conducive. There's no pooping, sex, or self-discovery when
Yeah.
you are in like bear mode.
Yes.
So, yeah, so
Chased.
it just doesn't work very well.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you said exercise. So I don't know if you get this too, but I feel like I have a lot of women who are like, I need to lose weight. I want to be fit. And so it's almost like we're overdoing it. And our body's like, I'm really stressed. I'm going to hold on to this weight because, again, we're being chased by a bear.
Right.
And so, almost telling people like, I know you think I'm crazy, but I want you to maybe lift weights, run like once or twice a week. And the other days I want you to like go for a walk, do some stretching, do some light weightlifting, and you'll actually probably like lose more weight doing that, which is just crazy. But, again, back to that, parasympathetic and sympathetic.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. And I've always said this, being a CrossFit trainer since '09, like,
Mm-hmm.
right? You want to talk about some type A
Yeah.
athletes who, who are engaging in competitions wherever
Mm-hmm.
they are, how often they are, whether they're local or national or, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest error I see is overtraining.
And not
Period.
resting. Yeah.
Period. They
Mm-hmm.
don't rest and they won't recover and
You
they
know, and
won't,
yeah.
and they do get injured and
Yeah.
they won't like give themselves grace. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
even when they are resting, it's almost like as if I've duct taped them to a lounge
Yeah.
chair and they're like struggling the whole time. And you're like, dude, like, no, your body seriously needs you to like
Right.
do some breathing and like do some
Stretch.
praying and some
Yeah.
meditating and get on the ground. Yeah, do all the stuff.
Right.
So,
And just what do you think? Like just take 1 or 2 days off a week? I mean, I guess two probably
I
ideally.
think it depends on the
Yeah.
person, and I think it depends on the activity and the type of rest day you're having. Like
Yeah.
I've found that hair kills me. Um, I've found that in my comeback from my Achilles tear,
Mm.
where I was largely sedentary and I went through a really tough emotional year. So you want to talk about some cortisol?
Mm. Like been there.
Yeah, I know, right? My cup was overflowing and then it
Yeah.
was depleted, right? But coming back into that and looking to build more muscle mass because I
Mhm.
lost some.
Mhm.
It was at first I'm going to be at the gym 3 days a week. And
Mhm.
on my rest days, I'm going to ride my bike and I'm going
Mhm.
to take a run. And it's not going to be for time and it's
Mhm.
not going to be for anything but mental health, vitamin D,
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. Get
I need to
sunshine.
be on the loop saying good morning to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I,
it's
I,
beautiful.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I know, right? It really does fill my soul and help me feel connected. And
Yeah.
that is so important
And
to
in
my
sunshine
cortisol
and
level.
nature. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Yeah. That's like probably way healthier for you than, go all day inside a gym. Then let's go run, walk outside.
Yeah. And so I try to balance and then it was funny, especially coming back from that Achilles tear. One thing I realized, thank goodness for my Whoop telling me all my,
Oh,
like,
yeah. Everyone
hey,
loves
by
it.
the way, your recovery sucks. Is that like I really did need at least a day and a half on the couch, period.
Mhm.
And so I would literally, Amy, you are going to watch at least 2 movies this weekend. Get and I
Yeah.
did literally just have to kind of duct tape myself to the lounge chair,
Yeah.
so I could have rest days that looked like I'm going to ride my bike and run. And
Yep.
I had to have one rest day that it was like, no, you're not going to do even housework. You're not going to go
Yeah.
out in the yard. You're going
That's
to
what
lay down.
I tell people all the time. I'm like, take like a Sabbath, if you will, just like
Yep.
one day. And people look at me like I have two heads. They're like, wait, no like laundry, no dishes. Like I'm like, no, like take one full day just to do what you want to do, what's fun. And I can't tell you how much that changed my health just doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I started that like a year and a half ago, and I was like, why have I not been doing this my whole life? Like this is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. It's funny when I look at my, I think on the Duke Wheel of Health, it's grouped as movement, exercise, and rest.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And I really like the way they did that because exercise is different from movement. Like I can tell you that about 3 times a day, I take about a 3-minute walk outside, 3 to 10 minute walk outside. It's a meditative walk. It's not a fast walk. Sometimes I'm on the phone. Sometimes I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's hot as 2 Hades out there. I'm like, but that's part of my movement.
Mm-hmm.
This last night, actually, I took a very slow bike ride.
Nice.
Just moving, not, on any, and when I do ride my bike, it's a beach cruiser. Okay. We're not talking about no, like 21 speed all over the island stuff. No, I'm just being happy and free.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the rest of
Yeah.
really rest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think you got to play with that. Now I'm up to 4 gym days a week.
Yeah. Perfect.
But they all look different.
Yeah.
I think about 2 of those days, I have about 10 minutes of very intense work.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of those days for me is body weight lifting, like strict pull-ups, strict dips.
Awesome.
A lot of grip work.
Mm-hmm.
I lost a lot of grip strength.
Yeah.
So a lot of grip work. And then squats, deadlift, normal strengthy kinds of things. So it does, my CrossFit career right now, my movement, exercise, and rest right now looks nothing like it did when I started CrossFit in 2007, and it was 5 to 6 days a week of go in and have at least a 20-minute, very intense.
And did you tear your Achilles doing that type of workout?
Girl, no, I tore it playing tennis.
Oh, I was like, dang.
No, actually, I have to say, it's never been CrossFit that has
injured you.
No, it really hasn't been. It's been dumb stuff. I once had a back spasm after I picked a dog pillow off the floor. It was ridiculous.
But that.
Yeah. 3 weeks I walked around like with my pelvis tucked under. It was horrible. But yeah, it's typically never in the gym. It's always dumb stuff.
And I don't know if you tell people this, but I always think like after you work out, I mean, not like maybe right after when you're like tired and like, oh, that was hard, but maybe like hour or 2, maybe that afternoon, exercise should make you feel better. If you're feeling depleted after, then you probably have some adrenal fatigue, which is, chronic stress, and our body's like, hey, like we're doing everything we can. And when you exercise, you're just making me more tired. So can you just go walk and chill out, So I tell people, I'm like, just, watch your day after. You should feel better. Like weightlifting should make you feel better. Or like walking should make you feel better.
I love that because I have had both friends and athletes who like when they work out in the morning, like their day is shot. Mm-hmm. And for me, I'm like that. Okay. That is not normal.
That's not good. Yeah.
Your day should not be shot after, you're 45, even to an hour. I mean, I stay 2 hours at the gym every day that I go, my 4 days a week. And I'll tell you why. Because part of it for me, when I look at what is the benefit of my going to CrossFit, there's like the muscle strength, coordination, balance, blah, blah. There's also community.
Yeah.
There's music therapy, because I can guarantee you I've got my 90s dance music on, and but I'm working out beside someone and I can high five and like, hey, what, if I want to engage. And then the last part of my workout, my time at the gym, is about 20 minutes of stretching and or meditation and prayer.
That's awesome.
So because I am clear and I haven't left yet. And as soon as my feet get in that Suburban to leave that gym, I'm home.
Yeah, exactly.
And that meditation is not going to happen. So that was one of the things I learned when I was rehabbing my Achilles, and I'd just go to PT and do my PT and then leave. I'm like, why am I not getting the juice? Why am I not getting that relaxation, that clarity? It's because I wasn't taking the time while I was clear to be still.
That's good. I love that. So we talked about all the pillars. So the only other one I didn't talk about was diet.
No, that's a big. I shied away from that. If we can just keep talking,
we'll talk about diet. The same thing though. I think people don't eat enough. Like we're like, oh, we want to lose weight, so I'm gonna eat like 1 or 2 meals a day. And I'm like, hey, like you need protein, you need good carbs, like fruits and vegetables and fat. So I have people I'm like, work out less, and they're like, who are you? And then I'm like, eat more throughout the day. And they're like, I don't understand. Like you're doing the opposite of what,
Yeah.
everyone's told me. So yeah. I think, not many people get protein either. So I have a lot of people start their day off if they can with protein, even before their coffee, because coffee can jack up our cortisol and our adrenals. And so I'm not saying don't drink coffee, but try and have some protein first. So,
Yeah, you'd be having some steaks
Yeah,
burning at your office if you tried
look
it.
at me. Yeah, I'm like, okay, you can have your coffee.
And I think it's pertinent to mention, like, that whole, like, exercise less, eat more works well when your hormones are jacked up.
Yeah.
Once you settle out that stress and those hormones, then we can start tweaking in. Now you can build a little muscle, but you're not going to be able to build muscle when your cortisol is just through the roof. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I probably get the people who are like, cortisol's in the toilet, so that's what I see, Yeah.
And it's hard, I think, when people come in that to wrap them up enough in grace and love and trust and faith that they, like, I know this sounds counterintuitive. I know it does. But
Trust
we
me.
we gotta bring that down. And really, once you do, then life sort of evens out. So let me go back to this nutrition thing, because I have a question on this. Lately, I've seen more and more and more, and I'm very interested in the concept of, we go around looking for calories and we go around having hungers. And really it's because our nutrients suck, even in good quality food.
Yeah.
And I am really a firm believer that all theories in healthcare and health will change over time, period.
Yep.
They will. I mean, in 1980, nobody could have any fat because we were going to eradicate coronary artery disease. I know, right? And we're still all dying of heart attacks. So, that's some bullshit. But, I really like that idea that maybe it's not the amounts, the macros, that maybe it's also that we are just not getting the nutrients that we need.
I know, it's so sad. So I've seen a few studies like yellow squash back in the I think it was like 20s or 30s, had 100% of the vitamin A intake that we needed in a day. Excuse me. And now it's like 0 or something crazy.
You're kidding me.
Like our over farming, our nutrients, our soil, right? Like we're supposed to rest the soil. We never do that. We're just like, go, go, go. I think when people see me, they're like, I eat so well. Like I do all these things. Why do I still need to supplement? And I'm like, I really wish I could get people to like, just take a multivitamin and that's it.
Right.
But, nowadays, like our magnesium's so depleted because it's not in our soil anymore. So, and when we get stressed, magnesium gets depleted. So that's when I find probably like 80% of people need to replace.
Really?
Crazy. Yeah.
Now, if you were, I don't even know if you can answer this question, because there's 80 billion different types of magnesium.
Oh, I know. I love them all too.
I know, right? And they all have sort of different. Off the cuff, if somebody's just listening and they're thinking like, well, shit, my magnesium is probably low because I'm a normal person, what would be the type of magnesium you would say start first?
So my favorite is glycinate with a Gly. It's good at nighttime. It's really calming and relaxing, helps with sleep and relaxation. So that one's my personal favorite. I would say probably 80% of patients are like, oh yeah, like you're a genius. This worked really well. And I'm like, oh, it's just magnesium. It's the best supplement ever. So I love that one. A lot of people take over the counter like magnesium oxide and it just doesn't get absorbed well. Most people feel worse on it actually. So anything like synthetic, like a multivitamin just over the counter, it's probably going to have that oxide. And then it's most likely not being absorbed. If anything, just working on your bowels, like maybe too much.
That's your pooper. That's your if you're not pooping.
Or citrate. Like citrate.
Or citrate,
Yeah. And then I really like magnesium malate with an M. That one's really good for in the morning time, gives you energy, helps your mitochondria. So back to chemistry, how we make ATP, right? Like how we make energy. A lot of times our mitochondria gets dysfunction. So there's people who are like, oh, I worked out, I feel super tired. Well, hey, let's try the magnesium malate and see if that can get our Krebs cycle and our electron transport chain, all that nerdy stuff working again.
I love it.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, so would you suggest taking a mag glycinate in the evening and a mag malate in the morning?
That's what I do. I found that works
Huh.
really well for me. There's like so many out there though. There's Tori, that one's good for like cardiovascular, like blood sugar, more of that like we were talking about coronary artery disease.
Mhm.
If you have a lot of like palpitations, can't figure it out, maybe that. And then I really like 3 and 8. It goes through the
Yep.
blood-brain barrier. So that one's really good if you're like a super anxious person, even throughout the day, and you can take that throughout the day. It's calming, but usually doesn't make you sleepy like the glycinate. So there's so many different kinds.
And
Love
then,
them all.
so just so that we're covered, you don't want to just pop 15 mags a day
Yeah, you will
of
be
any
pooping.
type,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, let's CYA. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, talk to your healthcare professional, right?
It's
But
so true.
yeah, I think, maybe start with one. And then if you have a loose stool, you're probably doing too much. And then there's, the magnesium potassium ratio, making sure you're not overdoing it and lowering your potassium. But that's, pretty uncommon. Yeah.
It's such a fascinating, that's the, when I became a nurse in 95, it was, I didn't really, know I wanted to be a nurse. But I had a friend who's still a very good friend of mine, and we were talking one day, and she's like, nurses can make like up to 70 grand, and I was like, well, crap. I mean, that's pretty good, and I do like chemistry. That was one of my courses that I liked. I was like, I like chemistry, and I like taking care of people, so okay. I got so lucky that I absolutely loved it. But to this day, like the chemistry part is so fascinating to me when we start talking about cells and all the electrolytes, all the things that have to happen for one little cell to do one little squeeze so that your heart can beat or your thigh can run or
how are we alive?
Yes, I know.
Like I always joke, like the more I learn, the more I'm like, wow, I like don't know anything because it's just so intricate.
That's called wisdom.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, it's fun like learning all the nutrients that could boost mitochondria and the Krebs cycle and detox and all those fun things. So so I've
detox
with that.
Yeah, the detox is another whole.
Oh my gosh, wild.
Yeah, I don't even like. We may need to have another podcast / webinar.
I know 2 pathways well, and then I keep learning more, and I'm like, oh, good grief, I got to learn something now.
Honestly, well, when you look at your nutrition and you look at chronic disease and how nutrition plays into chronic disease and autoimmune issues that are just really rampant, they are just everywhere. And inflammation. We talk about inflammation a lot. I think that's the new buzzword in healthcare. It's been around. But I think we're learning more and more and more. And I think mainstream is really adopting that it's here and it's causing the bad stuff. Yeah. Right. So when we look at all that and you look at, am I getting the nutrients in my food or supplements? And even if I'm getting them, can my body absorb them and utilize them properly? And that hits all that. Well, how many toxins you got living in there?
Yeah.
That's a bowl of wax.
Health and your gut health and all that. Oh yeah, it gets crazier and crazier. That's what I love about functional medicine because we're digging and we're saying, okay, not only can we check your bloodstream, right, like what's circulating, but let's look at the metabolites and like the breakdown from your cell. So like the organic acids, if you will. So they're out of pocket, they can be expensive, but if you kind of have hit a wall and you're like, I've done all these things, I'm still not getting better, then we can look at, well, what do your detox pathways look like? And are you actually absorbing your B12 into the cell? Like, does the cell telling us you're good? Not just what's your bloodstream telling us. So it's more in the weeds.
That.
Yeah.
Let me make sure that everybody got that because I think I'm on the same page with you. So when we'd have a patient in the ICU and we wanted to make sure that they had enough air, enough oxygen in their blood, at some point, if we were giving them high amounts of oxygen and too much of it was still in their blood, we knew their cells weren't actually using it.
Right. Exactly.
So the cell couldn't utilize the food, the oxygen food we were giving it. And that's what you're talking about is having blood tests, not for just what is inside your blood that you've given your body to utilize, but then also like, did your body utilize it properly? And how healthy is the cell? Like, did it absorb it into the cell and use it?
Right. And that's
what you're talking about. And we don't typically test for that.
Yeah, no. I was like,
in traditional healthcare.
Yeah. And then, what's blocking it? Like the cell, is it a toxin? Is it not having enough fatty acids like fish oil? Like why isn't our cell absorbing it? So so all those things.
I love that because it takes it right. I mean, it takes it way down from like, what are you putting in your mouth to what is going into your gut, to what is getting into your bloodstream, to what is actually being utilized, what else is in there. And that's the challenge and the ticket. And I'm so glad you're doing it.
I was like, it's fun. Yeah. I mean, I just did a test for my own self and I was taking a B complex. Everything was good, but randomly like B2 or B3, like riboflavin. And I'm like, why do I need more of that? But my body said I did. So I supplemented with extra riboflavin for 2 months. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop now. I shouldn't need any more. So it's just random things like that. Like you don't know until you check. So that's
my vitamin D, last time I had it checked, which was about a year ago, I think, was through the roof.
Oh, wow. So you're
absolutely. We don't know. We don't know if I was taking too much because I was taking the recommended dosage or if my body wasn't utilizing it.
Oh, yeah.
So a little mystery there.
And there's 2 different types of vitamin D too. So we usually check
Scooby-Doo mystery.
Yeah, we usually check D2, but you actually can check D3. It's just more expensive and insurance won't cover it. So then if you came to see me, I would check that on you.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have lots of playtime, I think, here soon. So, well, is there anything else you'd like to share with anyone listening who is either interested in functional medicine or up against a wall where they have tried I'm on 14 antibiotics and I'm not doing well and I don't know why? Anything you want to share with them?
I'm sure you've seen this too, but I feel like people almost have trauma from the medical system because we go in now to our primary care, whoever, and, they're like, oh, well, you're normal. Like there's nothing wrong with you. Your blood work was fine. And you're like, no, like I'm tired. I have joint pain. I'm having all these gut issues. And it's just like, oh, well, we don't know. Or like, go do all these tests. Oh, we can't find anything. So that's kind of where, I landed and why I found functional medicine. And so I think it's just, if you feel like you're not being heard and someone's not, digging as much as you want them to, I think that's where functional medicine comes in, where we will listen. We will, I promise, find something wrong or something we can help with. Right. So that's why I really love functional medicine because it's getting to the root and just keeping on digging and being an investigator. And that's,
I love that. And I want to just thank you for doing what you're doing in the community and for our health. Cause it's very clear to me that not only are you passionate about like the nerdiness of like, let's go after it. I feel like you're just a little honey badger.
Oh, for sure. I don't
no, but I also really hear the passion that you have for listening to people and like being with them and being a partner in like, no, you're not alone. I'm not going to poo-poo you. We are going to go as far as you want to go and we're going to find out what we can find out. And I really, if we can all move in that direction as healthcare providers and as healthcare consumers, we're going to be able to move from angst to joy. Yes. And we're going to be able to move from like surviving to like really thriving health.
Yes, for sure. And I love my health coaches too, because I feel like I throw a lot of information at people like, hey, you need to do all these things. And of course you can't do them all at one time. So seeing a health coach walking you through like, let's break this down, focus on one thing at a time. What's the maybe thing you want to focus on because it's your health and it's your goals. Yeah.
Yeah. When I found health coaching, I have to say, I've always like my favorite nursing theorist was Nola Pender, and she is all about health promotion and disease prevention. And she's all about health education. Like I love health education, and the frustration is twofold. You've come in with a heart attack and now I'm telling you, oh, by the way, you need to change 18 facets of your life tomorrow. Good luck. Right. And then I see him back in 6 months. And it's sad and it's frustrating. There's the one thing. And then the other thing is like, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. Everybody actually knows pretty much what we need to do. I mean, there's some gaps. I'm sure that, a lot of people didn't know we could pull a D3 and a D2 and look, but for the most part, we know the things that we need to do for our bodies. And it's not in the knowing what to do.
It's the coaching. It is
in the mindset and in the, not creating more stress by deciding now you have to go to the gym 5 days a week. You have to eat all organic food that you all have to cook at home. It can't have any gluten, dairy, or, eggs in it. And you got to do it right now, 911.
Right. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, this is what I would like you to do, but I know that's probably not reasonable. So go work with a health coach and, meet us where you can, So I think I love what you do too. So thankful.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Healthy AF with Dr. Mackenzie Jones, a DNP. She has my heart with a little functional medicine here in Wilmington. We'll have the ways you can contact her all in the show notes. If you want to use her for a resource, I would say that's a good place to start. Mackenzie, thank you so much again for being
here.
Thanks
for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Healthy AF podcast. I hope that it has helped you create a new possibility for your health and sets you into action to go get it. If you want more information or if you want to connect with me, visit my website at myhealthylife.coach. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that each new Healthy AF episode will be sent directly to you. Let's take you from where you are to where you want to go.